And like that, we're live. I've still got lots of things to figure out and make sure that this all works, but hopefully we've got good audio and good video, and I'll look to you in the chat to let me know about all of that. But we are here. We're here in 2023. It's time to do some live coding, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I've been working on a project for a little while, and the project itself is meant to be a skill for skilled developers, right? There's a lot of things that I wish I just had access to. Things like sound effects libraries and all the speech cons and examples of all of the ways that things work, right? I'll give a quick example. When you use Alexa shopping actions, for example, when you're building an Alexa skill. Good morning, good morning. I gotta be able to see that better. Let's see if I can do this. Good early morning. I can't see I have it on a smaller monitor and it's so tiny. Is there a way can I do this? No, it won't let me zoom. How am I going to see that better? Dana Voice, good morning. Jan, good morning. We are going to figure how do I want to do this? I really like being able to use my whole machine for development, which is what we're going to get to in a second, but I need a way to zoom that in. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But anyway, so with shopping actions, there's a lot of things that you kind of hand off to Alexa. Sorry, it's raining. I've got all sorts of stuff going on. So there's stuff you hand off to Alexa, and you don't always know what the words that Alexa is going to say are. And as a result, you end up with this weird experience where you just kind of hand it off, and you, without building it yourself, you don't really ever get a good vibe for what the Alexa service is going to say on your behalf about the product you're trying to sell, or if you think about things like in-skill purchasing, lots of different examples like that. Good morning to you, Gold Zulu. Happy New Year to you as well. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to build one skill that does all the things I can possibly do. Now, there are limitations to this. For example, I would love to be able to demonstrate all of the different permissions models. But I don't believe that you can turn all of the permissions models on. You can choose, for example, first name, last name, or you can turn on full name. But I don't think you can turn on both. And so, but they're similar enough that it should give a good demonstration of how this works. And I'll just check with all of you here. Maybe I move this down and we'll just look at it for a second. Where did it go? Where did it go? Is this it? No. Boy, really getting back into the saddle here is tricky. Oh, I see what I did. Never mind. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, man, I can read that so much better. Can I pop the chat out? Can I do that? Chat. Nope. Oh, font size. There we go. Yeah, if I just made the font size bigger, then that would be great. Because everything's on this tiny little monitor in front of me. So I have, oh yeah, that is a winner. So I have, and you guys have probably seen this in some previous iteration of streaming, but I have this huge monitor here in front of me that I do all of my work on. And then I have this little tiny monitor. I'm not kidding. It's maybe 10 inches. It's a tiny monitor, but it is meant to be a teleprompter. And so I have, the monitor actually sits and faces up, and then I have an angled mirror that points at me, and I'm seeing the mirror, and then behind the mirror is the camera. So as I'm looking at myself and the chat and everything else, it looks like I'm looking right at you, but I'm actually reading things, and I can monitor what's going on. But it looks like I'm looking right at the camera, which is kind of the goal. Anyway, the point of this stream, the point of what we're doing here this morning is to build, and so I'd like to get right into that. So I brought back one of my older layouts. We'll be playing with all of the stuff that is the stream, right? One of the challenges with live streaming is there's also the meta of like, how do I stream? How does this stuff work? How do I make layouts? And so like, this is one of the views that I'm going to use, at least for today. We may tweak this up in the future, but this is what we're all seeing, and I'm going to go ahead and sit down also. I like standing, and I will do some time standing, but I also want to make sure that I'm comfortable and able to get all this stuff done. So you guys can see my screen. You should be able to hear me. Startup, good morning, namaste, happy new year, and welcome to the show. So I have built a small chunk of this skill already. I've been working on this for the last, 3 months in my free time. I've tried to get regular with some streaming and just haven't had the success. And now this 2023, we've written goals, we've put together documents at Amazon about what we want to work on, and this is one of my top priorities. And so I expect to do this at a minimum, every Wednesday and Thursday morning. But I could very easily see us gravitating into a every morning kind of thing. And the challenge for me with regular scheduled streaming is that I travel for work. And the next 3 weeks are no joke. I am actually home this week. There was a chance I was going to be at CES in Las Vegas, but that didn't come through. So good for me, I guess, because I get a week at home to catch up on some things before the travel starts. And then once we've done that, then next week I'm at an event called CodeMash. So I'm going to do this on Wednesday and Thursday morning, but I'm going to be doing it from CodeMash. So I'll probably just be in my hotel room or something like that. And then on the following week, I'm at that conference in just outside of Austin, Texas. So I'll be doing it from a hotel room that week. And then the following week, I've got a super secret meeting that I'm flying out to, and so I can't talk about that, but I'm going to go out and do that. But I'll also be in a hotel room that third week. So that's why, at least initially, I'm just doing Wednesday, Thursday, and actually the Thursday isn't even going to work that third week of travel because I'll be on a plane. So those are the things that get in my way. If I was always at home and always just in this environment, this would be no issue at all. I have the good fortune of having most of my team live on the West Coast, And so most of my meetings and other work obligations that are very temporal, that have specific times assigned to them, most of those don't start until my noon. And so getting started here at 9 a.m. is actually pretty easy. Griller Geek, thank you for the subscription. Much appreciated. So that is the story anyway right now about how we're streaming and why we're streaming and what we're doing. But what I'm really trying to work on is to build an Alexa skill that does lots of things. And so I thought I'd just take you guys on a quick journey through what that is. And we can go first to my developer console. I think this is the easiest way to visualize what I'm working on. So let me blow that up. And we can talk about what the skill already does. And then we can get into what we want it to do going forward. So right now, and this is one of the things I'd love all of you to help me with, I'm calling this skill Voice Developer right now. I don't think that that's an appropriate name because there's lots of APL, there's lots of other things that are not specific to voice. But if you'll recall, the thing I'd love to call this is like Alexa Developer or something like that. But the naming conventions that we can use for an Alexa skill preclude a lot of those kinds of things. We can't use the word skill, we can't use the word Alexa, we can't use a number of like reserved words. And so I'm struggling with what to call this thing. Voice Developer is what I've landed on for now, but if you guys have any ideas as we go through this, hey Jeff, this skill should be called X, Y, or Z. At some point I'm going to publish this, hopefully by the end of the month, maybe mid-February for the first time, because right now it's just on my local development. I haven't made it public anywhere. But yes, my plan here, Gold Zulu, is to make, you're giving me names, Developer Asset, Developer Goldmine. But my hope here is that's what this thing will be, right? Is that it will be a skill that allows you not only to use it and hear how things sound, but then also to use it as a reference guide through GitHub or any place else that we store a lot of this information and data, so that you can easily see like, oh, well, Jeff's skill does that. How did I do this, or whatever? So that is that's the intention here. So let's look at our interaction model, and you can see that I have a few intents. Is this big enough, by the way? Is that readable? I'll go one more big. Dana Boy says Developer Ninja. I don't know. I've tended to not love the words ninja and rockstar and stuff like that. I see where you're going with it, but we'll see. Again, lots of options out there, but I definitely need to come up with a name at some point. Okay, so let's talk about the skill. So we can skip over our built-in intents, and if we look at the rest of this, you can see that I have a SpeechCon intent. So we can test some of this stuff too. So I have a SpeechCon intent. This allows me to ask a bunch of things like, give me a SpeechCon, or say a specific one, right? So if I wanted it to say, I always use Bazinga as an example, then you could just say, hey, say Bazinga, so I can hear what that sounds like. Because a lot of times you need to get these sounds in your head to really understand how a lot of it's going to work. So you can also say things like, pick a SpeechCon or give me a SpeechCon, and I have a bunch of variations on those as well. And so SpeechCons, if I open Voice Developer, let's just do that. Also, I'm curious to know, does the audio for Alexa come through here?
Hello, and welcome to Voice Developer.
Looks like it does.
This skill can give you information and answers about Alexa skill development. Did you know I can repeat what I just said? Just say, repeat that, to hear anything I say a second time. What should we do now?
Okay, awesome. So what I do is I actually have the output of my machine running through my microphone and back to all of you. So as I talk, you're also hearing Alexa stuff. And so that is what she says when she welcomes you. There's a bunch of stuff to unpack about how this works. There's a welcome, there's an introduction, and then there's also like a recommendation, like a did you know kind of piece that we tack onto this as well. Okay, so I've opened the skill. Now what I want to do is, I don't have that one in here, so we'll just say Bazinga.
Bazinga! What can I help you do next?
Okay, so first things first, she was able to say Bazinga, right? So I can ask her for any of the SpeechCons, and one of the things that I had to do for this is I have a table. I'll blow this up a little bit for you as well. And in this table, I have literally every SpeechCon that's available. So you can see that as we start here, a lot of these have punctuation at the beginning, as Spanish does, and you can see that I've labeled those as only Spanish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter down this list. I am here talking about U.S. English for now, but obviously we can cover all of this. And I'm going to change my locale to only EN-US. And there we go. So I filtered down my list, and now we can see only SpeechCons that are available in EN-US. You can see that they're available in other places also. And this is a table that I've had to build myself from scratch because this data doesn't exist in another place. And I've based all of my rules. If you look through the SpeechCon documentation, I've gone through all of it to make sure that I'm matching everything on spelling. So there are a bunch of like ahs and ahas and a few others. And if there was a different spelling, then I treated them differently. So I think in some cases, like, I don't remember. Let's see here. If I unfilter this for a second, we'll just delete that. If I go down to the ahs, there's like an aha and an aha. These are different. And it's not that they necessarily sound terribly different. It's that we use different spelling for the SpeechCon. And so for the Spanish one, it's a-ha, and for these four locales, it's just AHA. And so I've treated each of the different spellings that you'll see in the SpeechCon documentation as different SpeechCons. So let me filter this down again, where locale contains EN-US. And we can look at just the ones that are here. So you can see that I have a long, long list. There are 316 of these. And of those 316, what I do is I have the words themselves, but then out here on the right-hand side, I have what I call slot JSON. And this is just a formula. This is something that Airtable gives me. If you guys haven't seen Airtable, I will spend hours talking about it. But what I've done is I've basically built a formula, like you would do in Excel, to format a string to include data. And so I take the record ID, and I also take the name. And so you can see here that this JSON gives me the slot values that I need to be able to put into my code. And so if we jump back over here and look at my interaction model in JSON, you can see that down here somewhere, if I look at SpeechCons, there's a lot of this. Let's find the SpeechCon. Yeah, here's the SpeechCon JSON. And so it looks just like this. Now what's nice about this is that let's say I discover that there are new SpeechCons available in the documentation and I want to add them to my skill pretty quickly. Well, what I can do is I can just add a new record, and then I can honestly just click the top header here. I can copy this column, so it's only this blue column here on the right-hand side. It will copy all of these values, and then all I have to do, so here I'll even do that. I can say copy. I can come over here. I can blow all of this away. So we'll scroll all the way down to here, get rid of all of my SpeechCons. So you can see my entire SpeechCon slot value is empty. I can hit paste, and now they're all back. So this is an easy way for me to cut and paste right out of my database and put everything right into my slot. So I manage all of my stuff this way. And the reason that I do this is because it makes it so much easier to make updates. If I don't do this, then I have to update my database, then I have to come update some JSON. And while I do have to update the JSON, I can just copy and paste, and I don't have to navigate or dig or go through a lot of the effort that's required here. Let's see if I can get this font size big again. I feel like it went back too small. It could just be that it's on a small monitor, but I feel like settings. Gosh, this monitor is so small. Chat appearance. No, I have the biggest font size. Just still not big enough. Okay. No, Command Plus works well for lots of things, but it does not work inside Streamlabs, which is the piece of software that I'm using for streaming where the comments come in. So Goldzulu said, hey, W. Giorgio, haven't really done a tutorial other than live coding on Twitch, which might have been taken off already. I have the boilerplate, but it needs updating. Okay, so yeah, Command Plus works really well here in the code, right? I could bang, bang, and we can blow all that up. I do that all the time, but the Streamlabs does not give me that luxury. Anyway, I just wanted to show you how easy it is using those columns to be able to update my slot values. Now, of course, I still have to publish this and go through that whole process, but that's something you would expect anyway. So we've talked briefly about the speech content, but I wanted to kind of run through the other pieces that are here. So we played a SpeechCon. We asked it to say that. But if we come back to our interaction model, you can see that I have not only the SpeechCon intent, but I have an answer intent. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have a news intent, which is the latest. Tell me what the latest is, right? So I can say things like, what are the latest updates? What's new? Give me the news. What's the latest news? In my table, I have things like this. Announcing the availability of Alexa A/B testing, or these are other throwaway things. I was testing to make sure that things like publication and expiration dates work. But the point will be is that my team will be able to insert information into here so that as there is new news, as there's things coming up that you want to know about, when you open the skill, you can just say, hey, what's new? And it'll give you the latest news. And my expectation is that this is updated at least once a week. I also hope to build a companion flash briefing skill that pulls that data in and lets you know about what's going on this week or whatever, so that you can just add that to any of your morning routine flash briefing kind of stuff. But anyway, that is the news. The other pieces here, if we come back to my intents, so that's the news intent. We'll talk about answer intent. That's basically a Q&A style interaction. We have a buy product intent. So the buy product intent just allows you to try to buy an Echo device. And so that includes the Echo Dots, the Echo Shows. What I'm actually doing behind the scenes, if we look at the code, so buy product, is that the best way to do it? This I guess I should look at my slots again. So if we look at my slot values, somewhere in here I have these 5 devices. The Echo Show 5, 8, 10, 15, and the Echo Dot. And so you can say buy an Echo Dot, and it'll actually go through the entire process for you. Now, this is like live. So if you were to use this function so that you could hear this thing, if you say, yes, I want to buy it, it will buy it for you. It'll buy it on your Amazon account, and you can go in and delete that purchase. It's pretty easy to do. That is how the buy product intent works. Dana Voice said, how about a widget with Alexa News? I think that's a great idea. Maybe that's one of the ways that I can funnel the latest news, is to build a widget for the skill that runs on your screen so that you can just see the latest news. Yeah, I mean, widgets are going to have to be a part of this. So I think that's a fantastic idea. One of the other things that I could do, if we just bring this up here, one of the other things we're going to be doing quite often is this. Create an Alexa widget that shows the latest news. Latest developer news. This is another plugin that I've been using a bit in VS Code, if you guys haven't seen this before. It's called To-Dos. And in here, you can see that it basically just creates a tree for me of any place that it finds to do, like I just formatted it, right? It's a comment, it's got the word to do, and then a colon, and then anything after that, it creates basically a work list for me. So I don't have to go search and find all the to-dos that are there, but as I encounter something or I have an idea, I can add all of those things directly to this list and then kind of jump through and say, oh, I want to work on the news intent. So like here's a to-do. Like, what happens if we don't have any news? My hope is that the process that I'm putting together, that won't happen. But if we don't have any news, we should have something that we do. And so we want to make sure that that happens. This one is create a default news item image. And that's because I'm actually bringing the news into APL. And so I want to make sure that all of that news is showing up and you can read it appropriately and scroll and see images. But my expectation is that there will be a small image for each news item to be used visually as well. So anyway, lots and lots of little things like that. Alexa says change. Oh, Alex. This was Alex said I should change everything to a speak item. I got to figure out how to do that, right? So these are all little tips and things that I've left for myself in here as I go along. But this is a really great checklist. and it makes it very easy for me to see what's going on. Okay, so let's jump back to our intents because there's a couple of others that we already have, and I want to just talk about the rest of this. So sound effect intent. This allows you to find a specific sound effect. So if there's one you like and you just want to hear it, you can certainly ask for it. But I think the more likely case is you want a sound effect that is a specific type. I want a laser sound effect, or I want a fire sound effect, or I want a cat sound effect, or whatever. Can you recommend some for me? And so again, if we go back to my database, I have a sound effect table, and it has all of the sound effects. And so one of the things that I've done, I plan on adding more to this, but this is a lot of data. I think there's 3,000 sound effects. Is that, for example, there are 13 fire extinguisher sounds. We don't really give you any other indication about what those 13 sounds are other than that there are 13 different ones, right? They're numbered 1 to 13. And so if you know you like number 4 for whatever your purpose is, that's great, but 4 doesn't tell you a whole lot about what it is. So what I've done is I've taken the names of the sound effects themselves. So this is air/fire extinguisher/fire extinguisher 01. It also has a category. All of these categories came directly from the hierarchy that's on the sound effects webpage. This is the name of the file, like the title of the file, that's also found there. And what I did is I used a function. It's a complicated one, lots of substitutes and regular expressions. But what it does is it pulls all of the individual words out of the name, the category, and the title, and it creates a synonyms column for me here. And you can see that I can also add custom ones, like I did with snake right here. It doesn't sound like a snake. I just thought of the word snake when I wrote this. And then finally out here at the end, I have, again, my slot JSON. This allows me to then copy all of the sound effects with all of those synonyms. Now, again, this doesn't help me distinguish between fire extinguisher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but what it does do is make it easy for people to search things that may not have been terribly searchable before. And so now I have all of these words individually separated. I'm also trying to figure out how to remove duplicates. They have not made that super easy. So that's something else that I'm still working on, but it doesn't hurt it to have the duplicates in there, so that's okay. But my hope would be is that I can come in and I could say, this fire extinguisher also sounds like a hiss, right? And so I could come in, I'd have to listen to each one and go through all of this. But now you can see hiss is a synonym. And so then if you're looking for a sound effect that is a hiss, not only would you get all of the hissing sounds, but you would also get this individual fire extinguisher because it also has kind of a hissing sound. Anyway. That's what I'm doing here, but you can search all of the sound effects. You can say, give me a laser sound effect. In fact, we'll do that here. This is kind of long, but let me say play a laser sound effect, and you'll hear what it does. We have a limitation of playing 5 sound effects per response, and so what I've chosen to do is go in the database, randomly pick 5, and give you 5 different laser sound effects. And you can hear them, and then you can be like, oh, that's laser sound effect 4 or whatever. So let me just let you hear what this sounds like.
There's 12 sound effects matching laser. There is a limit of 5 sound effects per response, so I picked 5 at random. This one is named Sci-Fi Laser Gun Battle 1. This is Sci-Fi Laser Gun Fires Large 4. This sound effect is called Sci-Fi Laser Gun Fires 2. This one is named Sci-Fi Laser Gun Battle 2. Here is the sound effect named Sci-Fi Laser Gun Fires 3. What can I help you do next?
Okay, there's a couple of things I want you to see about that also. Not only did it come in and it said, hey, there's 12 sound effects, so you know there's 12. There's a limit of 5 sound effects per response, so I picked 5 at random, and then it just starts playing them. But you'll notice that this time it said, this one is named. I'm just worried about the prefixes here on my sentences. This time it says, this is. This time it says, this sound effect is called. Then it says, this one is named again, and here, finally it says, here's the sound effect named Sci-Fi Laser Gun Fires. You'll notice that each of those introductions to a sound effect has different speech associated with it. It's using slightly different words to introduce each one. This all comes from a table I have called speech. And if I go to sound effect, you'll see that I have these 4 different responses. And what it's doing is it's picking one of these at random. It's filling in the 2 blanks that I have for title and sound effect, and then it's providing that as the speech. And what's nice about this, and we could continue to grow this list, is that it doesn't sound repetitive. It isn't just this broken record of here's a sound effect, here's a sound effect, here's a sound effect. I mean, it is doing that, but it's doing it in a way where the speech is randomized enough that you don't feel like it's just saying the same thing every single time. So we're going to see a lot of this stuff as well, where we have lots of different kinds of speech that are being pulled out. For those of you that have been here a while, you've probably seen me do this, but I think this just makes such a dramatic difference in what the skill sounds like to users. Okay, so we had sound effect intent. I've implemented the Amazon repeat intent. There's some specific code that goes into that, but it allows you to say things like, can you repeat that, or can you say that again, or whatever. And there's some code that's necessary to do that. All of that is built into this code project as well, so that if you want to build a repeat intent for yourself, I've found a pretty easy way to do that by just storing it in my session variables. And so the next time the user says something, Alexa says something back, we save it to the session variables. The user says repeat that, we can just pull that value out of our session variables. But we've already saved it for ourselves, so we don't have to go do a bunch of hard work to figure out what it is we said or how we said it or whatever. We already have that just sitting around and waiting for us. Some of the other things that I'm going to be working on, but I've started building, is an office hours intent. This one allows me to play the last office hour episode, so you can it'll just pull it directly from YouTube and play the last office hours for you. All of these really just do the same thing. I am also tempted with office hours to be able to ask for a previous episode. So play me the one from January 2nd, 2023, or whatever. That's bigger. We'll get to that. But for now, if I could just play the last one. My step beyond that is to play the one that's playing right now. So if you open this skill and office hours is live for that 1 hour a week, then it could be like, hey, office hours is on, do you want to watch? And it could let you do that. But for now, we're just going to focus on playing the most recent episode of office hours that's already been recorded. And then we have a lot of SSML stuff. Startup wants to know, what is all the metadata of office hours you are including? Currently, none. I think that there's going to be a time where I want to make the office hours segment of this skill far more searchable. If you guys recall, I used to have a teammate. His name was Ryan Lowe, that was here on my team with me, and we were working on a project that took the transcription from each of the YouTube videos and saved all of that to a database. And made all of the episodes searchable by content. And so you could actually say, hey, when did they talk about custom slots? I'll just use that as an example. What it could actually do is go back and look at all of the episodes, find times where it had heard the word custom slots, and bring back timestamps of all of the individual episodes and where that had happened. And then you could say, oh, let me hear that one. It would take you immediately to that moment in the YouTube video when custom slots was being talked about. So that is all stuff that we will do. I'm going to have to create a table here for office hours. This is not it. All of this data will be going away, but I will have an office hours table, and I will have that basic searchable stuff startup, which is who were the guests, what was the topic, and certainly the date and time and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the basics will be there, but I actually want it to be far more deep in what you can search. And so that'll take a little more time, because Ryan and I were working on that project, and then he decided to move on to a new opportunity, which I was super excited for him at. But that's something that we just don't have in place today. So we'll get there. All right. So if we go back to our intent list, I want to talk about the SSML stuff that I have here as well. So this is the other thing that I've been working on, and I'll bring up the tech docs for this. Alexa SSML reference. So I'm sure you guys, anyone that's built an Alexa skill before, you've probably seen this page, but we have all of this stuff over here on the right-hand side. Effects and domains and emotions and playing audio files and breaks and emphasis and languages and phonemes. There's all sorts of stuff here. And I wanted a way for you to be able to easily play with this stuff and manipulate it a little bit. Now, some of these things you can't manipulate a ton. For example, phonemes like phonemes isn't an easy thing for you to just be like, say this phoneme, right? Because you'd be saying the sound you wanted to make, which feels a little weird. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with phonemes yet, but for a lot of this, I've already done it. So for domain, we have conversational, we have long form, we have music, news, and fun. Fun only works in Japanese skills. We have effects, which is things like whispering. We have emotions, which is things like excited or disappointed. And then we have intensities on those, which are low, medium, and high. We also have emphasis, which allows you to do strong, moderate, or reduced. Moderate is really the default value. But all of these things are things that you want to be able to play with and manipulate and hear what it sounds like. And that's the thing that really is important to me as I think about SSML specifically, is what do all of these values sound like? What does it sound like if I have strong emphasis with a newscaster voice? What does that sound like? Well, today you'd have to look at our tech docs like I'm doing right now. I'd have to go create a skill or get into some kind of simulator where I could make this speech be spoken, and then I could hear what it sounds like. But that's a lot of steps. What if I could just have Alexa do it for me automatically inside this skill? And so that is what some of these other values are in here. So I can say things like change the emotion to excited. And you'll hear that it changes pretty quickly.
I've changed your emotion to excited. You can always change it again by saying, change the emotion to excited, disappointed, or normal. What would you like to do next?
Now, what's fun about this, or maybe not so fun, is that I persist these values. So now, anytime that you're using the skill, even across sessions, she's going to stay excited. If I also wanted to add something else, so let's think about another value that we might want to change here. We have excited. We might also want to do conversational. So we could come into, do I have change the domain to conversational?
I've changed your domain to conversational. You can always change it again by saying, change the emotion to conversational, long form, music, fun, news, or normal. As a note, fun is only available in the Japanese locale. What would you like to try?
So in this case, you can see that the excited voice went away. So if I'm using a domain, like conversational, then the excited stuff doesn't apply. It doesn't mean it's not there. And in fact, you can see, if we look here, that I have my domain conversational, and then over here I have emotion excited. And what we find is that these things override each other. There's no way you could know that, and it doesn't really tell that very well in the documentation. There isn't anywhere in here that I think that it says you can how things will be overridden. It always says test how your responses sound with the simulator to make sure that it's appropriate for the response. Anyway, it does say the default voice without the Amazon domain tag. So if I look at this, you can see that I'm using the domain. So if a domain tag is used, emotion is not. These are good things to know. But as you start mixing and matching and changing these properties, and as I go to my user table, you can see that I have excited and conversational on. Because we're talking about a visual interface, a voice interface that I may not have a good idea of what I've turned on or turned off. I also wanted to provide a way to know what I've turned on or turned off. And so I have this, I think I have it in here. Nope. So let's look at what my intent is. My SSML intent is which SSML values are on or anything like that. And so if I say something like this, just copy that and bring it over here and do that.
Your current SSML properties are domain, conversational, emotion, excited.
So that you can hear what's on and what's off. And then you could say things like, let me save this one. And then I can say set, let's set domain to normal. And I've introduced normal. Normal's not a normal value.
I've changed your domain to normal.
And now she's back to excited.
You can always change it again by...
I'll just mute that for a second. So you could, even though normal is not a real keyword for all these values, I've used it as a default. So you can always say, oh, just set that back to normal. And it's basically turning it off or resetting it to whatever the default value is. And so you can see in my table that the domain has been emptied. I said normal, but it actually changed the domain to empty. But excited is still on. So if I bring this back now, is she done talking? Yeah. This is how we can start to manipulate and play with all of these SSML values in a way to hear how this stuff works. And one of the things that we don't have yet is the ability to change all of the voices. So I actually thought I would give that a run today. That would be the thing that I try to accomplish, is allowing you to change the voice from Alexa's voice to one of the other voices. And we'll do it the same way that we've done a lot of these others. But if we look at this data table, you can see that I have a voice value sitting here waiting to be used. I'm sorry, a poly voice. And this poly voice is going to be any one of the poly voices that's available. Now, I have to make sure that they're only choosing voices that are available in the locale that they're in. But this is where we'll store that value, and then we'll use that to manipulate this. So in the spirit of writing a little bit of code today, I thought it would be good to work on changing voices today. So we can close our news intent. We don't need our model for now, although we'll come back to that. And as we look at what's going on in here, you can see I have my break intent. Also, I give you the ability to do breaks, but I didn't want to. My initial thought was that I could just put a break between every word in every response ever, and you could hear how long those break pauses are. But I found that was super annoying really fast. I mean, the excited voice is annoying on its own, but I found that breaks really were quite annoying quickly. And so there is a break intent, and the break intent allows you to set break length. So how long is an extra long break or an extra short break or whatever? And what I do is I use the same sentence every single time, and I introduce a break between every single word so that you can hear what it sounds like. But I didn't do it like I did with all the rest of the SSML, where it's kind of persisted and carries on and applies to all speech throughout the entire skill, because I thought it was just too annoying. So I have my domain, my emotion, my emphasis. I have my help handler here, which doesn't do a lot of helping yet. My news intent, repeat, session resumed, SSML intent. This is the one that, like, what SSML stuff do I have? Sound effect, speech con, stop, session ended, and then we get to the end. So this is probably going to be a P. We'll call it poly voice. So P goes here. I keep all of these alphabetical so that they're much easier to find. We're going to call this poly voice intent handler. And then down here at the very bottom, we'll add this to our list. Here looks like a good spot. These have to be in the order I want them to be done, so it's not alphabetical, although almost everything else I keep alphabetical, you'll find as we go through this code. It just, again, makes everything easier to find. We're going to call this poly voice intent, and then this is going to be poly voice intent. One of the other things that I'm doing with all of this code is trying to keep it so that it's very easy to find stuff and understand what an individual module does. And so as I come back to my code files, you're going to find that I have an individual file for each intent. So if I want to see the break intent, this is the entirety of it, right? I'm getting some data. I'm inserting a break of a specific length. The byproduct intent is just this little chunk of code, right? There's not a lot in most of these. Now, some of them, like answer, I think is a little longer. There's some conditional stuff, but emphasis intent, we're coming in, we're getting an emphasis, we're assigning it. Launch request is super simple. A lot of these are meant to be very, very basic. And so as we add things like APL, as we add more features, I think they'll get longer, but I'm trying to make it so that it's pretty simple to understand what exactly is happening, right? I'm using some interjections here, speech cons, to play those. Anyway, that's how all of this works. So the first thing I need to do in handlers is I need to create a poly voice intent.js file. Now this poly voice intent is going to have, well, we use emotion. It's probably a fine template. So we'll use that, and we'll just dump this in here, and then we can just change some values and clean out some code. So first thing, this is going to be poly voice intent. Maybe poly voice intent, and then we got to make sure we export that at the bottom just to get the basics done. And then in my index, I need to add this. And so this goes here. You can again see alphabetical const poly voice intent equals, and then down here again alphabetical. Okay, so we've registered our handler with the system, so now it knows that this function exists. What we're going to want to do is get the resolved word. Ideally, we want to match a slot value name. And so, excuse me, we want to make sure that we are creating a slot that only has the names that are available for this locale. And so since I'm currently working in ENUS, let's go to our markup and look at voice. And we have a list of the voices that are available. And so ENUS, these are the voices that I can use. Now, what's weird about this is that this isn't necessarily true. We have to, excuse me, those are the ENUS American sounding voices, but this is not a list of voices that will work in ENUS, if that makes sense. And so I want to make sure that there's nothing else crazy going on here, but I don't think so. And let's go back to voice. So one of the things that I'm going to do is try to use all of voice. I don't think I have all the voices in here yet. If I look at poly voice, oh, I do. Look, I already did the hard work. So I have all of the voices. I have some of them disabled for some reason. I'm not sure why, but we'll take a look at why. And then all of the voices that work in ENUS work here. But I need to know their the specific locale, because that's part of what you include when you include a voice is... where is that? You can see that here, if I want to use the French voice in English, then I really need to wrap it in that language tag as well. Otherwise, it does not pronounce words properly, or at least it doesn't pronounce French words properly. So we'll try it first without, but I think that we will find pretty quickly that we may want to add those lang tags in as well. So let's come in here. Let's get resolved words. We're going to call this, what do we want to call this slot? Well, we should probably build our intent first, right? So if we come in here, we have our intents. We're going to add a new one called poly voice intent. And we could say things like change the poly voice, or change the voice, change voice, use a different voice. All the basics, right? That's good enough for now. And then I want to say change the voice to, and we need a slot. And this is just going to be voice. Do I want it to be just voice? I think that's fine. So change the voice to set the voice to voice. Set the poly voice, in case people say that, to voice. Is there anything else I want to do right now? I think that's probably sufficient. And then we need, I don't think we have a slot, a built-in slot for that. I don't believe so, for a number of reasons. So we'll just create a new slot type called voice. And then we need to add values for this. So this is where we'll just do, we'll do Brian, and what were some of the other ones? Brian's the one I like the most from the UK one. Ivy and Joanna. We'll just add a couple in here. So we'll add Ivy and Joanna. Okay. So what I really just want to do is take this structure. So we have now this new voice intent, this poly voice intent. It looks like this. And we're going to bring that over here to our model. Not our model. Our model. And so down here somewhere, these should also be alphabetical if I'm being good, but not being good. So I've defined my slot type voice, but I haven't given it a type yet. That's pretty broken. Let me fix that. Also, my pocket is exploding. Why is my phone going off? Okay. So we need to do one more thing. Slot type. I have voice now created. I need to go back to my interaction model, to my intents, to my poly voice intent, edit it, and change this to voice. Now I have my slot. Save this, but the thing that I really want to do is just make sure that I have all of this context. So that's just going to be voice. So this can be voice, and then down here, probably at the very bottom, yeah, I have a new slot type called voice. So I need that piece, and we're going to bring that over here somewhere. Where do I want to put this? Put it in the middle with all the other SSML ones. So we'll put it here. Again, probably should be alphabetical, but and the other thing that I'm going to do, well, I won't do it now. Yes, I will. Is that we want to I like to clean up this JSON. The reason for this is because it's just more compact. So once I have this cleaned up, then I can use this as a template for the rest of the values that are going to come in. But this just, I don't know, this makes it easier to read. There's a lot about this that, you know, a JSON formatter would get rid of. But I just think this makes it so much easier to read. But that's just me. So we have Joanna, Ivy, and Brian. For now, I'll leave that. I can always update my slot value later. But for now, Joanna, Ivy, and Brian is what, and we're just going to jump between. I probably need another one, just so that we can go back to. And this one's going to have a synonym. Normal. I'm trying to use that as an example. What am I missing? Purple. Oh, I don't need this here. Better. Okay. So normal becomes this kind of default word that you can use to get back to whatever normal happens to be. In this case, it's Alexa's voice. You can also say Alexa, of course. But if you want it to be normal, then you can just say normal. Okay, so I have a voice slot. I have a voice intent. All of that is good. So we'll come into the terminal. Come on, terminal. I haven't fired this up yet today. Let's do it. There we go. So we're going to say ask deploy. And that's going to push my new model up. So we can, while we're working on the rest of this, that is happening. I want to make sure it doesn't fail. But okay. So that gives me that piece. Now we need our poly voice intent to do something. So again, now we have a slot called voice. So that's what this is going to be. This is using a helper function I created called get spoken words and get resolved words. All this is spoken words are the words the user actually said. They may not have said anything if they just said change the poly voice or something like that. And then the resolved spoken voice. The resolve value is if they actually hit something that's in my slot, then I will get a resolution that is the value that they spoke. So we still need an action query. what is norm? I think normal is just the word normal, but I needed to use the word. Yeah, this is just okay. That's fine. All of that looks good. Resolved. Okay, so if resolve voice is undefined, then that means that we have. Let's do that too. Been a little while since I've used this machine to do some building, but we'll upgrade the CLI here in just a second. So if there was nothing resolved, then that means they didn't match one of the voices, right? One of the voice names. And so we're going to have something like voice apology, and we'll get a voice apology. And this is where we get to use the spoken words. So then we'll say voice apology. We're going to replace spoken voice. We're going to replace a placeholder called spoken words with whatever they said. And we're going to say something like, you asked me to play the voice for Carl. Well, Carl isn't a voice, so sorry. Just to let them know that, like, hey, I heard you, but I don't have what you're looking for. So that requires us to build a voice apology. So we'll come into our speech table. We probably have another apology in here somewhere. Answer apology. I don't have a record for spoken words, so we'll just take this. That's fine. And we'll come down here to the bottom, and we'll say voice apology. And this is going to be my response. I don't have a voice named spoken words. My apologies. The available voices. No, I don't want to give them a whole list of voice names. How do I want to say this? I don't have a voice named Carl. My apologies. You can try names like Brian. What are some of the other? Kendra or Matthew. We'll just Brian, Kendra, or Matthew. Okay, so that is done. I have my voice apology. I need to give it some locales or it won't be found. So we'll just take this row and copy it. Great. I don't have a voice named spoken words. My apologies. Great. Okay, so that's good. So that's this chunk here. So if they said something that I don't know what to do with, I think we're good. Now we need to do, what do we do if they do have something? So this is going to be var voice, resolve voice, and value.name. And so I hold this for a specific reason. You'll see this here. So if voice value equals voice, not if. So then if emotion value, this is me playing with normal. If voice value equals normal, then voice value equals undefined, and that's what assigns my database to be empty. And then we're going to say, get a couple more values out of the database. So voice confirmation, that's going to be this, voice confirmation. And we're going to update the user voice. So this is a new function that we'll have to do separately. And this is going to be voice value. So we're actually user voice. That's funny. Okay, so we need to create this function user voice. And so that's up here. We have update user emotion. We can use this as our template. Save as, and this is going to be update user voice. Okay, so now same kind of deal. We need to make sure this is all logged and registered voice, and copy down here, and then index update user update user voice equals update user voice update user voice. Okay, registered. Now we got to do the other stuff. Voice, get session attributes. That's just getting our Airtable stuff. Update table. If voice equals undefined, then voice equals nothing. Great. I want to update that. I want this to be poly voice, and this is going to be voice, and return voice for no good reason. Okay. So this then inserts that value into my database so that I know what voice the user actually wants to use. And we update the user's table. So, okay, so we've done that. So we are now getting random speech. We need a voice confirmation. So let's find a different confirmation. I've changed, yeah, it's probably something like this. So we'll take all of that. Nope. All of that down here to the bottom. And we'll call this voice confirmation. I've changed your voice, changed the voice to, what am I doing here? Go away. Where do I change that? Oh, it's down here. Okay. So I'm going to change the word voice. That's the thing that I want to change. So I've changed the voice to voice. You can always change it again by saying change the voice to you can always change it back to Alexa's voice. Change the voice to normal. So I've changed the voice to Brian. You can always change it back to Alexa's voice by saying change the voice to normal. Okay, I think that's good for now. So we've got our voice confirmation. So now that's this piece here. We've pulled that in. So session attributes, we need to change this. So this needs to be what our poly voice is. We need to save that in our session attributes. I'll explain that in a second. That's going to be our voice value. And we need it to be undefined here because then it will treat this as undefined in my session variables. But if it's not, then we'll actually use it. And then if voice doesn't equal normal, again, a thing the user might have said, if it doesn't equal normal, then we're going to set this to the SSML for voices. And I want to make sure that I get this right. So down here we have voice. It's just voice name. Okay, I haven't done this in a while, I guess. So we can change this to voice name equals voice. And we don't have any intensity for that. That's another thing that I plan on playing with Emotion, is allowing you to set the different intensities also. So then this is going to be voice confirmation. We're going to replace voice with voice. And then we have a break time, and then we need to close our voice tag. Except that that's not actually what we want to do here. What was the other one that I did this where I didn't actually want to do it right then? Boy, I did one of these where I want to wrap. Well, here I can find this another way. If I go to index, down here I have not intent reflector, not error handler, this one. Apply SSML. What am I doing there? That's in my helper? Helper. apply SSML. This is because I want to wrap everything, not just one specific statement. So I moved all of these out. Okay, so we're actually going to do this here. I don't know that it matters, but I feel like voice should be first. I don't know that it matters. Voice doesn't equal undefined. Then we're going to say voice name equals whatever the voice we've saved for them. And then we have our closing voice tag. Did I close the file accidentally? Okay, so that's good. So what I actually do is I pass in basically the opener and the closer, and then I have a put SSML function. And what this does, because as it generates all of this speech, it wraps everything in a speak tag. And so what I do is I rip off the speak tag, put everything together, and then reassign the speak tags on the outside. Or no, I don't even do that. I just call speak again on my response builder object, and that then wraps everything up again. So that is that. So I now have voice. If it's not undefined, then we're going to assign the voice. But I think I still, if I look at like emotion, I think I still do it. Right? I'm setting my speak output for this time because it doesn't run through the engine. So this is just a one-time deal, this polyvoice update. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna leave this as voice. And this needs to be voice. This should only ever say normal, because right, if it's not normal, then it'll do this one, but if it is normal, it'll do this. But I'm treating it as if it might vary to something else. Anyway, oh, what did you say, startup? Oh yeah, can you write specific code for the echo with a display and echo without a display? Yeah, in fact, I have in my little helper function, I do this basically. I have to find it. Put SSML, repeat data, I guess, but maybe not. You can see that I still have like some of the old casino stuff in here. I'll rip that out eventually. Maybe I don't have it in here anymore. I thought I did. Supports APL. Go to that. Oh yeah, right here. So I have a little helper function that I've built that says supports APL. So startup, the only thing that I have to do is I basically call this function. It returns to me true or false based on whether or not the specific device that is running my code is supporting APL or not. And then if it does support APL, then I do the APL commands inside the if statement. And if it doesn't support APL, then I just don't do those things and just provide the voice experience. But really, all I do is if supports APL is true, then do all the APL stuff. And if APL is not true, then I just don't do anything extra. But the voice experience side doesn't change. The only thing that changes is whether or not I add the visuals. Now, I could see how that may tweak or change depending on the situation, but for the most part, that's generally how I treat that. So this, my little helper function, which you can find in lots of my GitHub repos, should have this, and that is just the flag that I use to determine whether or not APL is needed. Okay, so we're almost there. We're almost, well, we probably are there. I think we're done. So let's give this a run. So my debugging closed, so let's fire that back up. And assuming my deployment didn't fail, I don't think it failed. No, well, I think we're good. So we should be able to come right back in here and say, change the voice to Brian.
I've changed the voice to Brian.
Nice.
You can always change it back to Alexa's voice by saying, change the voice to normal. What would you like to try?
Okay, so if I look at my speech here, not my speech, my user table, you can see that something failed. Something failed. That should be there. Did I get any error messages? I did not get any error messages. Update user voice. That should have saved it. And it didn't. Update user voice. Why didn't that do what I wanted it to do? Update user voice. Polyvoice. Voice. Pretty straightforward. Well, I'm going to get rid of these because they're confusing me. That should say Brian, and I don't know why it doesn't. Do something basic.
Your current SSML
Yeah, see,
properties are
it doesn't
domain,
remember that.
normal, emotion, excited.
And so I would bet that if I come in here and I say Brian, that now, if I do that, what SSML values are on?
Your current SSML properties are domain, normal, emotion, excited.
Why? Oh, no, that should still work. No, that will not work. Why am I doing that? Oh, because this is a database problem. So if I just change this to a string, and let's get rid of this for now. Now I think that'll work.
Your current SSML properties are domain, normal, emotion, excited. Your current SSML properties are domain,
So we're still
normal,
missing something,
emotion,
even if it was
excited.
saved. But I think it'll save now. I think the issue was how I had that structured. So let's do that first. Change the voice to Brian, and let's clear out that field. Okay, so now we should at least see it saved. Change the voice to Brian.
I've changed the voice to Brian. You can always change it back to Alexa's voice by saying, change the voice to normal. What would you like to do next?
Okay, so that's fantastic, Brian. Thank you. And then if I come into my table, I can see that Brian was saved there. And so the only other thing that seems to be missing for me is we're getting user record.fields out of our database. And we have helper.apply SSML. The thing I haven't checked is maybe it's doing it and I just have bad syntax or something. Because it's not voice. It's polyvoice. That is the problem. Polyvoice. I'm pretty sure that's it. Okay, let's refire up that code. Let's come back over here. Who is that? Kevy Kev says, oh, is he using Airtable instead of AWS storage? Yeah, I've played with lots of the AWS database options, and I will tell you that, especially for the way that I'm building this skill, and I tell this story a lot, Kevin, is for me, if I'm building just a back-end system that has a database, there's a lot of AWS solutions that are perfect. The challenge I have with this one specifically is that this skill is going to require a lot of data collaboration with not only me but my marketing team. They are going to we have a table specifically for news where they're going to come in and they're going to add headlines and body and things for cards and links as well as dates and times. Now, could they do all of this in something like AWS Lambda? Absolutely. Is there a much bigger learning curve for them to do that? Absolutely. And so there are a number of reasons that I prefer to work with Airtable. But the biggest one for me is frequently there is a content creator, someone that is writing content for your skill. And if I were to hand someone from my marketing team a Lambda table and say, hey, here you go, here's all you need to do. They need to have an AWS account, they need to be able to log in, they need to understand permissions, there's a bunch of other stuff that comes with it. And so Airtable solves all of those problems for me. I can add their email address, they can log in, and boom, they have the visibility of an Excel spreadsheet. They can upload images, they can do all of the stuff that would otherwise be rather complicated for someone that's not deeply technical like developers are. So for that reason, that's this table is a big piece of that. But on top of that, I also have the ability, using their mobile app and a number of other things, that if I want to make a change to this whole system on the fly, one of the examples I like to use is, let's use news as an example. So I'm running through the airport, as I'm known to do sometimes, and then someone says, hey, the news is broken. The news feature on the skill is broken. Well, I don't know why it's broken, but think about what would be required if I really wanted to fix something that was wrong in a Lambda table. So one of the things that I've set up the ability to do here is, again, mobile app makes it really easy, but if, let's say, there's something wrong, like this voice headline is causing an error, I can come in and check this box, and that is instantly pulled from circulation. Nobody else is going to hear that news. No one's going to use that headline, which means if there's a character or something weird in there that's breaking it, I've disabled that, and now everything else will work just fine. Or if, let's say, the news just isn't working in general, I could turn them all off. And by turning all of them off, it'll just give a default value that says, I'm sorry, the news isn't working right now, or we don't have any current news, which is still better than an error. So I have built this into every single table that I have here. So if we look at speech, right, I have this is disabled column for everything. And if I unleash my army of marketing folks on this database, they can come in and make all sorts of additions and changes that would be much harder to manage if we were doing this in one of the AWS data structures. It just requires more technical knowledge. The alternative would be that I would have to go build an interface like Airtables that then interacts with my database behind the scenes. So it's not a slam on AWS. I think that there's a lot of fantastic data options there, right? We can run a SQL and all sorts of other things there. So it's not that at all. It's just that this interface is so much easier for the non-technical folks that are also going to be working on this skill. So that's my little speech on that. But thank you, W. Giorgio, also for backing me up on that. Okay, so what were we doing? We were I changed the voice to Brian. Let's change it to a different one. I have to think about which ones I actually put in my code. What did I put in there? We'll say Joanna. So let's change the voice to
I've changed the voice to Joanna. You can always change it back to Alexa's voice by saying, change the voice to normal. What would you like to try?
What's also interesting is that I have excited on. You can see that that's right here. But Joanna is just not excited. I wonder if it's because let's try that. If I go to the voice and tone and paste this here, goodness, I have multiple voice tags? Why is that? Why is there 2 closing voice tags? None of that seems like that should be true. Oh, I see how that might be true. Because here, I'm applying all of that. But it seems like it would try to wrap it with Brian also, right? Maybe it did and I missed it? Come on, too many scroll bars. Voice name Joanna. What would you like to try? I've changed the name to voice, to Joanna. What would you like to try? And emotion is happening first. But that doesn't seem like that should happen either. Emotion's here. Oh, I know why. And it's going to be in that case only. So I wonder if we just say ask her to do something else. What's something I could do that's we'll do this one.
Your current SSML properties are domain, normal, emotion, excited.
Okay, so I'm guessing Joanna just doesn't sound excited. Because this time, oh no, it's still on the outside. How is that even possible? That the emotion is being applied first, when in the code it is most definitely not. Oh, maybe it's because, yeah, because of the way I'm wrapping things. This should actually be last. Okay. Okay. Cool. Just look at your code, Jeff. Startup, my expectation is that, I don't know how often they'll actually update it, but my expectation is that there's new news every week. They may go through and load all the news once a month, knowing what's going to launch and how things are going to go, but we put publication and expiration dates on each news item so that they only appear at the times they're supposed to appear. But my expectation is that there's new news every week. I don't know how often that actually means they'll update it, though. Okay, let's try that again. Which SSML values are on?
Your current SSML properties are domain, normal, emotion, excited.
Yep, Joanna just does not get excited. I've switched the order of those now, and that just does not happen. So I should be able to say change the poly voice. We'll just try this to normal.
There was a problem with the requested
Ooh.
skills response.
What? Oh, because it put Alexa in there. Why? If voice value equals normal, because normal is the synonym, we should change that. That should be so we'll make the value normal, and we'll make the synonym Alexa. That will solve that for us. And so I got to get rid of that value here because it doesn't know what to do with that. And then we should be able to say, let's change it back to like Brian. So if I say SSML values.
From moneylife.in.
No.
Serum
I broke the
Silk
skill.
Mills Limited, SSML, is currently trading on the Bombay Stock Exchange.
This is Voice Developer.
Okay.
Did you know I can repeat what I just
Change
said?
the poly voice.
Just say, repeat that, to hear anything I say.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
Oh, okay, because this time I didn't update the model. I'm going to actually publish. So let's do that. Ask deploy. I got to actually push that up there. Otherwise, it doesn't build and it doesn't work. And we didn't do the AskCLI either. Copy. Okay, so I think it is working. It's just it's putting the wrong value in there because I told it to put the wrong value in there. So let's change the poly voice to normal and change the poly voice to Brian to our list. Okay, so those are in there and I can just click on them later. And obviously we'll bring in the other voices eventually, but this is getting us on our way to making sure that everything works. And I think we're there. I think we've now given the user the ability to change the voice. Now, one of the things that's important to note, and I want to point this out for all of you, because if you only watch this today and then you go try something like this, you're going to run into a wall. To comply with Alexa skill policies, don't expose the Amazon assigned name of a poly voice to users. This is a battle I'm going to have to fight because I don't know how else to do this. I want developers to be able to know which voice to use and what it sounds like. They kind of need to know what the name of that skill is, and I can see how in a normal consumer-focused skill why that would be an issue. But for this developer-focused niche skill, I am hoping that I can push hard on the certification team to get them to ignore that rule. Because for any of you that have done this for a while, add an unofficial in front of the voice name, unofficial Brian. Yeah, that would be pretty funny. But so we're not going to be able to do that traditionally. I'm going to have to go to bat and see if I can convince someone that, in my case, that rule doesn't make sense. But we'll see. They may still stop me. How we doing? Okay, we're good there. So let's try this one more time. And we're going to say change the poly voice to Brian. That should update our table.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Because I didn't start the skill. Open voice developer.
Welcome to the voice developer.
Change the voice to
Did
Brian.
you know I can repeat?
I've changed the voice to Brian.
Okay.
You can always change it back to Alexa's voice by
And then
saying,
change the poly voice
change
to
the voice to normal. What would you like to do next?
I've changed the voice to normal. You can
Okay.
always change it
So
back
it
to
appears that
Alexa's
that's all
voice
we're
by
gonna need to
saying,
do.
change the voice to normal.
Now the voice swaps between
should
the
we
two
do
voices.
now?
Stop it. So now we have both of the voices. We can swap between them. It persists it so that if you want Brian to be the voice all the time, you can just have it be Brian. But that also means that the next property that I should do should probably be prosody, because prosody allows you to do different speeds, and I don't think I've done prosody yet. But Brian speaks really slow. I like his voice, but I like Brian a little faster. So prosody will have to be the one that we do tomorrow, maybe. Again, it's going to be very similar in concept. We'll have a column prosody, and we will assign values to that, and then we will use that to determine. I've familiarized myself more with the code, so I'll be better this time. Maybe we can get through a few things tomorrow. But that took us an hour and a half of. I mean, I spent the first half hour or whatever explaining what the skill does. But I think we're in a pretty good spot. Oh no, Kev. So this is actually something that I'm making freely available. Everybody will be able to dive in and look at this. The catch is you'll be able to read it. You won't be able to use it. And the reason for that is because there's a database sitting behind all of it. That's the Airtable stuff that we were talking about earlier. So I do not publish, obviously, the private keys to call the API to get access to my database. So you won't be able to run my version. You can't just pull the whole thing down and run it yourself. But you can use it to use as a reference for any of the stuff that you're doing. And so the best way to show you that is to go to github.com/Jeff Blankenberg. And it is not in my starred list. Let's start there. So in my repositories, it's called Voice Developer, and we're going to mark this. I don't do this often enough to make want to make sure that I. Is it under Actions? No. Where do I do that? I have pinned. Gosh, I never remember how to do this. Is there like a set? Oh, I'm not signed in. That's probably why. Nope. We're going to have to do that a different way. I don't have the security key plugged in here. Enter two-factor. One moment while I safely use the internet. Nope. There we go. Okay, customize your pins. That's what I was going for. So we want to take, it's probably down here near the bottom, Voice Developer, and I got to unpin something because I think you get 6. So we'll knock off Dev Tips. I mean, a lot of these aren't updated recently anyway, but Voice Developer, save. And then I don't know if I can move them around. That'd be cool. Yeah, there we go. So now Voice Developer is the first one in my pinned list. And so you should be able to see that right there. And so I'll take a link to Voice Developer, the repo, and copy and drop that into... boy, how do I... Oh, I guess I do it right here. Oh, I got to log in. Really? More security. Okay, now, what did I just do? Okay. Now I think I can post to the, there we go. All right. So hopefully that came through for you, Startup and Kevin. Now the changes I made just now have not been updated yet. I'm about to do that. But I think that's it for now. I think that's all we're gonna do today. I want to make sure I leave myself a note. We'll do that near the intent. Poly. Add the rest of the poly. Okay, that is saved. Now we're going to go into here and we're going to say added poly voice intent. Commit, push. And now all the changes that I just made today are up there so you guys can see all that stuff as well. But that's the plan. That's how this should work every day is we'll show up, we'll write some code, we'll talk about some things, we'll have conversations if you guys have things you want to talk about. And at the end of the session, hopefully I'll finish a module and we'll push it up and you guys can have access to all that stuff. So that's the plan. That's where we're at today. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're here for an hour and a half today. My hope is, hour and a half every day that I'm on. And as we move forward, I hope that we'll do this 2, 3, 5 days a week because there's a lot of work that still needs to go into this skill. I have an entire Q&A section I want to build. There's the office hours stuff. There's I actually want to build a polling tool where you can, like, we could have a question of the day or a question of the week or something where you can give free-form answers. We'll see how all that's going to go, but building a poll will be very, very big. Goldzula wants to know if the Chatsino is back up. No, none of the chatbot stuff is there right now. I hope to bring a lot of that stuff back, and we'll work on those things as well. But maybe we'll make Mondays will be chatbot day or something. I don't know. We'll figure it all out. I just wanted to get back and get started. And we're here, and there's 15 of you, and I really appreciate all of you joining us. So I will be back again tomorrow morning, and we'll keep cranking on this. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and I